The alarm had been screaming for 3 hours now. Captain Thelis stood on the bridge of the gentle current and watched his crew run from station to station. Their thin, pale blue bodies moved with fear. Their large, dark eyes showed panic. The Volanthi were not a species built for crisis. "Captain, the reactor is failing," said his chief engineer. "We have maybe 3 days of life support. After that, the air will run out." Thelis closed his eyes. His ship carried 847 souls. Scientists, researchers, their families, their children. They had come to the outer reaches to study rare cosmic events. They had come seeking knowledge. Now they would die seeking it. "Send a distress signal," Thelis said. "Send it on all frequencies. Someone will come." The communications officer worked quickly. The SOS went out into the void of space. It traveled at the speed of light across the darkness. It reached dozens of species, hundreds of ships, thousands of listening stations. And then Thelis waited. The first response came from the Korathian Empire. Thelis felt hope rise in his chest. The Korathians were powerful. They had the largest fleet in the known galaxy. Surely they would help. "Volanthi vessel gentle current," the message read. "We have received your distress signal. However, your position falls outside established treaty boundaries. The outer reaches are not covered by the mutual aid agreement of Sector 7. Sending rescue vessels would set a dangerous precedent. We wish you peaceful passage to the next life." Thelis read the message twice. He could not believe what he was seeing. They were going to let 800 people die because of a treaty boundary. The second response came from the Illuminated Collective. They were known across the galaxy as a spiritual species, full of wisdom and compassion. "Dear suffering ones," their message said, "we send you our thoughts of peace and harmony. We pray that the cosmic light will guide your souls to tranquility. However, our sacred doctrine forbids us from entering contested space. Violence has touched those regions, and we cannot bring ourselves into contact with such darkness. May you find peace in your final moments." Thelis felt something cold growing in his stomach. It was not fear. It was something worse. It was understanding. The third response came from the merchant guilds. Thelis had done business with them for years. He had bought supplies from their ships. He had traded fairly with their captains. "Volanthi vessel," their message said. "We have calculated the cost of a rescue operation to your location. Travel time, fuel consumption, crew wages, and risk assessment have all been considered. Unfortunately, the total expense exceeds what we call the acceptable loss threshold. In simple terms, it would cost more to save you than you are worth. We recommend you make peace with your situation." One by one, the responses came. 14 species in total answered the call. Not one of them would help? They had reasons. They always had reasons. Treaties, doctrines, costs, risks, protocols. The galaxy was full of civilized species with civilized excuses. Thelis looked at his crew. He looked at the families huddled in the corridors. He looked at the children who did not understand why the adults were crying. "Is there no one?" he whispered. "Is there no one in this galaxy who will help us?" Then the 15th response came. It was from a species Thelis had only heard rumors about. They came from a small planet called Earth in a distant and unremarkable solar system. The galaxy did not know much about them. They had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel. They were new to the cosmic community, but the rumors about them were terrifying. They called them the humans, and they called them savages. The story said that humans came from a death world, a planet so dangerous that everything on it was designed to kill. The weather could freeze you or burn you. The animals hunted in packs with teeth and claws. The plants were poison. The ground itself would shake and open up to swallow cities. The story said that humans had evolved to survive this nightmare. They were strong beyond reason. They could run for hours without stopping. They could heal from wounds that would kill other species. They ate the flesh of animals. They drank poison for fun and called it alcohol. The story said that humans were violent. They had spent most of their history fighting each other. They had weapons that could destroy entire cities. They had killed millions of their own kind in great wars. The civilized species of the galaxy looked at humans and saw monsters. They saw predators. They saw savages from a savage world. And now, these savages had sent a message to the gentle current. Thelis opened the message with shaking hands. He did not know what to expect. Perhaps they wanted to negotiate. Perhaps they wanted payment. Perhaps they were coming to take what they could from a dying ship. The message was short. It came from someone named Captain Park Yuna, commanding a vessel called the Lighthouse. "We received your distress signal," the message said. "We are coming." Hold on, that was all. No mention of treaties. No mention of cost. No mention of protocols or doctrines or acceptable loss thresholds. Just 5 words. "We are coming." Hold on. Thelis stared at the message for a long time. His hands would not stop shaking. He did not know if he should feel hope or terror. The most feared species in the galaxy was coming to his ship. The savages. The Deathworlders. The monsters that civilized species warned their children about. His communications officer looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Captain, what do we do? Should we tell them not to come? Should we wait for someone else?" Thelis looked around the bridge. He looked at the failing systems. He looked at the countdown timer that showed how much air they had left. He looked at the 14 messages from civilized species who had chosen to let them die. "No," he said quietly. "We will not tell them to stay away. But Captain, they are humans. You know what they say about humans. They are dangerous. They are violent. They are coming," Thelis said. "That is more than anyone else has done." He sat down in his captain's chair and stared at the stars through the main window. Somewhere out there, a ship full of savages was racing toward them. Somewhere out there, the most feared species in the galaxy had heard their cry for help. And they were the only ones who answered. Thelis did not know what would happen when the humans arrived. He did not know if his people would survive the encounter. But he knew one thing for certain. The civilized species had abandoned them. The savages had not. Perhaps the galaxy had gotten something very wrong. 47 hours had passed since the distress call. Captain Thelis had not slept. He had watched the life support numbers slowly drop. He had comforted crying children. He had held the hands of elderly Volanti who were preparing to die Dodd, and then the sensors detected a ship. "Captain," the navigation officer called out. "A vessel is dropping out of faster-than-light travel. It matches the signature of the human ship." The bridge went silent. Every Volanti turned to look at the main viewing screen. They held their breath. They waited. The ship appeared in a flash of light. It was smaller than Thelis had expected. It was not a warship or a military vessel. It looked old and worn. The hull was covered in patches and repairs. It looked like a ship that had been through many hard journeys. On the side of the ship, painted in faded letters, was its name, Lighthouse. "They are hailing us, Captain," the communications officer said. Her voice was shaking. "Put it through," Thelis said. A face appeared on the screen. It was the first time Thelis had ever seen a human. The first thing he noticed was the eyes. They were small and forward-facing, like a predator. They looked directly at him without looking away. In Volanti culture, such direct eye contact was a threat display. It meant aggression. It meant danger I am Captain Park Yuna of the rescue vessel Lighthouse, the human said. We are here to help. Permission to board? Her voice was strange to Volanthi ears. It was deeper than their voices. It carried weight and power. Every word sounded like a command. Thelis swallowed his fear. Permission granted, he said. 20 minutes later, the humans came aboard. There were 12 of them in total. They wore environmental suits covered in patches and repairs, just like their ship. They moved quickly through the airlock, their boots making heavy sounds on the metal floor. To Volanthi eyes, they looked terrifying. They were so big. Even the smallest human was larger than the tallest Volanthi. Their bodies were thick with muscle. Their movements were fast and sudden. They did not glide gracefully like civilized species. They walked with purpose and power, like predators stalking prey. Captain Park Yuna stepped forward and removed her helmet. Her face was scarred. A long mark ran down her left cheek. Her hair was cut short. Her eyes were tired but alert. She looked around at the frightened Volanthi and did something unexpected. She smiled. I know we look scary, she said. I know you have heard stories about humans, but we are here to help. Nothing more. Nothing less. She turned to her crew and began giving orders. Her voice was calm and clear. Dawn, take Jiwon and head to the reactor. Find out how bad it is. Somi, set up a medical station. Check everyone for injuries. Taiwu, stay with me. You are my translator. The humans moved immediately. They did not hesitate. They did not ask questions. They simply obeyed and went to work. A large human with rough hands approached the Volanthi engineers. This was Kang Do-hun, the chief engineer. He looked at the terrified engineers and spoke slowly. Show me the reactor, he said. We do not have much time. The engineers led him away, casting nervous glances over their shoulders. They looked like small prey animals leading a large predator into their home. A female human with gentle eyes began unpacking medical equipment. This was Bai Somi, the medical officer. She moved slowly and carefully, as if she knew her movements might frighten the Volanthi. Is anyone hurt? She asked softly. I am a doctor. I can help. A young human stood next to Captain Park Yuna. This was Yoon Tai-woo, the communications specialist. He spoke broken Volanthi, clearly still learning the language. He smiled nervously at everyone he met. We are friends, he kept saying. Friends? Here to help. Captain Thelis watched all of this with amazement. These were the savage humans? These were the monsters the galaxy feared? They were working. They were helping. They were treating the Volanthi with care and respect. Then something happened that changed everything. A small Volanthi child wandered into the main corridor. She had been separated from her parents during the chaos. Her name was Morel, and she was only 6 years old. She was crying and scared. She walked around the corner and came face to face with 3 humans. The humans stopped moving. They looked down at the small, frightened child. Morel froze. Her eyes went wide with terror. She had heard the stories about humans. She knew they were dangerous monsters. Beisomi crouched down slowly. Very slowly. She made herself smaller, less threatening. She reached into her medical kit and pulled out something soft and colorful dot. It was a small stuffed toy. An animal from Earth. It had long ears and soft fur. Somi held it out toward the child. Her face was gentle. Her eyes were kind. It is okay, she said softly. You are safe. This is for you. Morel stared at the toy. She stared at the human. Slowly, very slowly, she reached out and took the stuffed animal. She held it against her chest. Somi smiled. There you go. Everything will be okay. Yoon Tai-woo knelt down beside his crewmate. He looked at the child with warmth in his eyes. "We keep these with us," he explained to Captain Thelis, who had rushed over when he saw what was happening. "For scared children. It is a human thing. On Earth, when children are afraid, we give them soft toys to hold. It helps them feel safe." Thelis looked at the scene before him. A human woman, one of the most feared creatures in the galaxy, was comforting a small child with a stuffed toy. The monster from the Death World was being gentle and kind. "Why?" Thelis asked. "Why would you carry such things on a rescue ship?" Taiwu tilted his head, as if the question confused him. "Because there are always scared children," he said, "and someone should help them feel safe." Morel's parents came running around the corner. They saw their daughter with the humans and nearly collapsed with fear. But Morel ran to them with the toy in her arms. "Look," she said. "The humans gave me a present. They are nice." The parents stared at the humans with shock and confusion. They did not know what to say. Captain Park Yuna walked over to join the group. She looked at the family with those predator eyes, but her voice was soft. "We will fix your ship," she said. "Your daughter is very brave." Then Kang Dohan's voice came over the communication system. He sounded worried. "Captain Yuna, we have a problem. The reactor damage is worse than they reported. We do not have 3 days of air. We have 18 hours, maybe less." The bridge went silent again. 18 hours. It was not enough time to wait for other help. It was barely enough time to attempt repairs. Yuna's face did not change. She did not show fear or doubt. She simply nodded. "Then we work fast," she said. "Dawn, tell me what you need." "I need a miracle, Captain, but I will settle for hard work and luck." Yuna looked at Captain Thelis. Her eyes were steady and calm. "We will save your people," she said. "I promise you that." Thelis did not know why, but he believed her. This savage human, this monster from a death world, had made him a promise. And somehow, he knew she would keep it, even if it killed her. Captain Thelis followed the humans to the reactor room. He needed to understand what they were planning. He needed to know if there was truly hope. What he found was chaos. Kang Dohon was standing in the middle of broken machinery, covered in grease and coolant. He was shouting orders to both humans and Volanthi. His rough hands moved with surprising skill, connecting wires and sealing cracks. "This design is stupid," Dohon muttered. "Who builds a reactor with no backup cooling system? This is like building a fire with no water nearby." The Volanthi engineers looked offended, but they said nothing. They were too scared and too impressed to argue. Captain Park Yuna stood nearby, watching her engineer work. Her face was calm, but her eyes were calculating. She was thinking, planning. Thelis approached her carefully. "Captain Yuna, what is the situation? Can you repair our reactor?" Yuna did not look at him. She kept her eyes on the machinery. "We can repair it," she said. "But there is a problem. The main seal is cracked. We can fix the crack, but the sealant needs time to set. During that time, someone has to hold the seal in place manually. There is no remote option. No way to do it from outside the room." "I do not understand," Thelis said. "Why is that a problem?" Yuna finally looked at him. Her predator eyes were serious and sad. "The room will be flooded with radiation," she said. "Whoever holds that seal will absorb a lethal dose. They will die." Thelis felt his blood turn cold. "Then we cannot do it. We cannot ask someone to die." "We are not asking anyone," Yuna said. "My crew volunteered for this work. We knew the risks when we came." "No." Thelis shook his head. "No, I will not allow this. This is my ship. My responsibility. If someone must die, it should be a Volanthi." Yuna's expression did not change. Your people have families here. Children. My crew chose this life. We chose to run toward danger so others could run away from it. But why? Thelis demanded. Why would you die for strangers? We are not your people. We are not even your species. You owe us nothing. Yuna was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was quiet. Because someone should, she said. Because if we do not help each other, what is the point of any of this? What is the point of civilization if we let people die when we could save them? Thelis had no answer. He had lived his whole life in a galaxy of treaties and protocols and acceptable loss thresholds. He had never met anyone who thought like this human. While they talked, the other humans continued to work. Kang Dohan showed the Volanti engineers new techniques. His methods were strange and unorthodox. He used tools in ways they were not designed for. He combined parts that were never meant to go together. This is not proper procedure, one of the engineers protested weakly. Proper procedure will get everyone killed, Dohan replied. My procedure will keep everyone alive. Which do you prefer? The engineer said nothing more. In the medical bay, Baysomi was treating the injured. The Volanti watched her with amazement. Their own medical practices focused on comfort care. When someone was badly hurt, they made them comfortable and let nature take its course. Somi did not accept this. When she found a Volanti with severe burns, she did not simply give pain medication. She cleaned the wounds. She applied healing treatments. She fought to repair the damage. Why do you work so hard? A Volanti nurse asked her. Some injuries cannot be healed. Humans do not believe that, Somi said. On our world, we learned that the body wants to live. It wants to heal. We just have to help it. But if the damage is too great, then we fight harder. Somi looked at the nurse with fierce determination. We do not give up on people. Ever. In the recreation room, Yun Taiwu had gathered the children. He was trying to keep them calm and distracted while the adults worked on the repairs. He taught them human games. Simple games that needed no equipment. This one is called hide and seek, he explained. One person counts while everyone else hides. Then the counter tries to find them. Why would we hide? A child asked. Is something chasing us? Taiwu laughed. No. It is just for fun. On Earth, children play this game all the time. It teaches us to be quiet and patient. And it is very fun when you find a really good hiding spot. The children were confused at first. But soon they were running around, hiding behind furniture and giggling. For a few minutes, they forgot about the danger. They were just children playing a game. Thelis watched this scene with a strange feeling in his chest. These savage humans had brought games and toys and laughter into a ship that was dying. They had brought hope. But hope came with a price. Captain Yuna gathered her crew in the reactor room. The repair was almost ready. Someone needed to enter the radiation chamber. Someone needed to hold the seal while it set. Someone needed to die. Yuna stepped forward. I will do it, she said. I am the captain. This is my responsibility. But before she could move, another human stepped in front of her. It was a man named O.G. Wan. He was older than the others. His face was weathered and lined. He had the look of someone who had seen many hard things. No, Captain, Ji-Wan said. You are needed. The crew needs you. The Volanthi need you to speak for them when we get back to civilized space. Ji-Wan, I cannot ask you to. You are not asking. I am volunteering. Ji-Wan smiled sadly. I was a soldier once. I have no family. No children. No one waiting for me back home. You have people who depend on you. I do not. Yuna's face showed pain. Ji-Wan, let me do this, Captain. Let me do something that matters. He straightened his back. This is why I joined your crew. To save people. Let me save these people." The room was silent. The Volanti watched with wide eyes. They could not understand how someone could volunteer for death so calmly. Finally, Yuna nodded. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "You are the bravest person I know," she said. Jiwan put on the protective suit. It would not save him from the radiation, but it would give him more time. He walked to the chamber door and turned back to look at his crewmates. "Tell me about Earth," he said through the intercom, "while I work. Tell me about home." Somi began to cry. Taiwu wiped his eyes. Even Doan, the rough engineer, had to look away. But they began to talk. They told him about rain falling on green fields. They told him about the smell of the ocean. They told him about their grandmother's cooking and their favorite songs and the way the stars looked from Earth. Jiwan worked in the radiation chamber. His hands were steady even as the poison entered his body. He held the seal in place and listened to his friends talk about home. The minutes passed slowly. The sealant began to set. The radiation levels climbed higher and higher. And then, finally, it was done. "The seal is holding," Dohan announced. "The reactor is stabilizing." Everyone cheered. The Volanthi embraced each other. Children laughed and cried at the same time. But the humans were not celebrating. They were staring at the chamber door. When they opened it, they found Jiwan collapsed on the floor. His skin was pale. His breathing was shallow. But he was still alive. Barely. Somi rushed to his side. "He is still breathing," she said. "We need to get him to the medical bay. Now." The Volanthi watched as the humans carried their fallen crewmate away. They had just witnessed something they had never seen before. A stranger had chosen to die for them, and he had done it without hesitation. Captain Thelis felt tears running down his face. He did not try to stop them. These were the savages. These were the monsters. These were the humans, and they were the most beautiful beings he had ever seen. The medical bay had become a battleground. Bei Somi stood over Oji-wan's body, fighting a war against death itself. Her hands moved quickly. Her eyes were focused. Her face showed the fierce determination of a soldier in combat. The Volanti medical staff watched with horror and confusion. To them, what Somi was doing looked cruel. Ji-wan was dying. The radiation had poisoned every cell in his body. The kind thing to do was to make him comfortable and let him pass peacefully. But Somi would not let him pass. She pumped chemicals into his blood. She attached machines to his chest. She shocked his heart when it stopped beating. Again and again, she brought him back from the edge of death. "Why are you doing this?" a Volanthi doctor asked. His voice was filled with distress. "Can you not see he is suffering? Let him go. Let him find peace." Somi did not look up from her work. "Peace can wait," she said. "Right now, he needs to live. But the damage is too great. No one can survive that much radiation. You are only making his pain last longer." Somi finally stopped. She looked at the Volanthi doctor with eyes that burned with intensity. "On Earth, we have a saying. Where there is life, there is hope. Ji-wan is still alive. His heart is still beating. That means there is still a chance. And as long as there is a chance, I will fight." She returned to her work. The Volanthi staff could only watch in amazement. 6 hours later, something impossible happened. Ji-wan's vital signs began to stabilize. His heart grew stronger. His breathing became deeper. The color started returning to his pale skin. "How is this possible?" The Volanthi doctor whispered. "SOM." I allowed herself a small smile. "Humans evolved on a death world," she said. "Everything on our planet tried to kill us. Disease, predators, poison, radiation from our sun. We survived because our bodies learned to heal. Our cells learned to repair themselves. Our immune systems learned to fight. She looked down at Jiwon with pride and love. We are hard to kill. Very, very hard to kill. While Somi fought for Jiwon's life, Captain Thalis was busy with communications. He had been sending messages to other ships, other species. He was telling them what had happened. He was telling them about the humans. The responses were strange and unexpected. A Karathan trading vessel sent a message. We do not understand. You say the humans entered a radiation chamber to save your crew? Why would they do this? What did you pay them? Thalis replied, We paid them nothing. They asked for nothing. The Karathian response came quickly. Impossible. No species performs dangerous work without compensation. There must be some hidden agreement. Thalis shook his head as he read the message. They could not understand. They simply could not understand. Then came a message from the Karathian diplomatic corps. A high-ranking official named Ambassador Varl wanted to speak with Captain Park Yuna. The transmission was formal and cold. Human vessel lighthouse, the ambassador said. We have received reports of your actions in the outer reaches. The Karathian Empire wishes to properly compensate you for your service. We are prepared to offer a standard rescue fee, plus bonus payment for hazardous conditions. Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of the gentle current, looking at the ambassador's face on the screen. Her expression was unreadable. We do not want payment, she said. The ambassador looked confused. I do not understand. You performed a service. Services require payment. This is how civilization works. Then perhaps we are not civilized, Yuna replied. The ambassador's confusion turned to annoyance. Captain, let us speak plainly. Your species is new to the galactic community. You do not yet understand how things work. Actions require compensation. This is the foundation of all trade, all diplomacy, all interaction between species. What you are suggesting is primitive. Yuna smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Ambassador, I want to tell you something about humans. On Earth, we have a saying. We say, today you, tomorrow me. I do not understand this phrase. It means that we help others because someday we might need help ourselves. We give kindness because kindness might be given to us. We treat strangers as friends because strangers might become friends. Yuna stepped closer to the screen. But there is another reason we help, Ambassador. A simpler reason. And what is that? Because it is right. Because when someone is dying, the correct response is to save them. Not to calculate costs. Not to check treaties. Not to measure acceptable losses. Just to help. That is all. The ambassador stared at her for a long moment. His face showed complete confusion. I do not understand your species, he finally said. Your logic does not make sense. No, Yuna agreed. I suppose it does not. Not to you. The transmission ended. The ambassador disappeared from the screen. Delis looked at Yuna with wonder. You spoke to a Karathan ambassador as if he were a child. He was acting like a child, Yuna said. A child who does not yet understand the universe is bigger than his own interests. Word of the rescue spread quickly. The Volanthi had always been a peaceful and respected species. They had friends throughout the galaxy. Those friends were now hearing about the humans. Young Volanthi children gathered around Yun Taiwu. They had a question they wanted to ask. Why did the human enter the dangerous room? Asked Morel, the little girl who still carried her stuffed toy. Why did he let himself get hurt to help us? Taiwu sat down among the children. He thought carefully about his answer. On Earth, he said slowly, we believe that everyone has value. Every person, every child, every life is precious. When someone is in danger, We feel it here. He placed his hand over his heart. It hurts us to see others suffer. So we do whatever we can to stop the suffering. Even if it hurts you? Yes, even if it hurts us. But why? We are not your family. We are not even your species. Taiwu smiled gently. Humans do not think that way. We see someone in pain, and we want to help. We do not ask if they are family first. We do not ask if they will pay us back. We just help. Morel hugged her stuffed toy and thought about this. Then she asked another question. What do you call that? When you help someone just because they need help? Taiwu thought about the word in Valanti language. He did not know if such a word existed. In our language, he said, we call it kindness. Or compassion. Or love? Love? Morel tilted her head. You love us? In a way, yes. We love the idea that people should not suffer alone. We love the belief that strangers can help each other. We love life itself in all its forms. The children were quiet. They were thinking about what he had said. These were new ideas. Strange ideas. Ideas that their culture had never taught them. But perhaps some of them thought these were ideas worth learning. Captain Thelis watched the young human talking to the children. He watched Somi continuing to fight for Jiwan's life. He watched Dohan teaching his engineers new repair techniques. He watched Yuna standing on the bridge, calm and strong and unafraid. These were the savages, the monsters, the dangerous primitives from a death world. And yet, in his entire life, Thelis had never met anyone more civilized. He began to understand something. The galaxy had defined civilization by technology and treaties and protocols. But perhaps true civilization was something simpler. Perhaps it was just the willingness to help others without asking for anything in return. Perhaps the humans were not savages at all. Perhaps they were the only truly civilized species in the galaxy. The gentle current was saved. The reactor hummed with steady power. The life support systems worked perfectly. 847 Volanti souls would live to see another day. Before the humans returned to their ship, Captain Thelis made a request. He asked Captain Park Yuna to share a meal with him. It was a human custom, she had told him. Breaking bread with strangers. Sharing food as a sign of friendship. Yuna accepted. They sat together in the captain's private dining room. The food was simple Valanthi cuisine, but Yuna ate it without complaint. She seemed comfortable, relaxed. The fierce warrior had become a gentle guest. I have a question, Thela said. I have been thinking about it since you arrived. May I ask? Of course. Why are humans the way you are? The galaxy tells stories about your violence, your wars, your aggression. But what I have seen is something different. I have seen kindness, sacrifice, compassion. How can both things be true? Yuna set down her eating utensil and thought for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft and thoughtful. You know that Earth is a death world, she said. Everything there is dangerous. The weather can freeze you in winter and burn you in summer. The oceans are filled with predators. The ground shakes and splits open. Disease spreads through the air. Even our sun tries to kill us with its radiation. Thelis nodded. He had heard these stories. Humans survived all of this, Yuna continued, but not by being the strongest or the fastest. Other animals on Earth were stronger and faster than us. We survived because we learned to work together. We formed groups, families, tribes, communities. We protected each other. But the stories say humans fought great wars against each other. Yes, that is also true. Yuna's face showed sadness. We fought for resources, for territory, for ideas. We killed millions of our own kind. It is a darkness in our history that we carry with us always. Then I do not understand. How can you fight so terribly and also love so deeply? Una looked at Thelis with those predator eyes. But now, he saw something different in them. He saw wisdom. He saw pain. He saw centuries of hard lessons learned. Because they come from the same place, she said. The violence and the love, they are both born from the same thing. The fierce desire to protect. When humans love someone, we will fight for them. We will die for them. We will do terrible things to keep them safe. She leaned forward. The galaxy sees human violence and calls us savages. But they do not understand. We learned to fight so we could protect. There's a difference. A soldier who fights to conquer is a monster. A soldier who fights to defend is a hero. Humans have been both. But our best moments, our proudest moments, are when we use our strength to shield the weak. Thelis thought about this. He thought about G1 entering the radiation chamber. He thought about Somi fighting to save his life. He thought about a stuffed toy offered to a frightened child. The civilized species of the galaxy, he said slowly. They evolved on paradise worlds. Food was abundant. Predators were rare. There was no need to develop the kind of fierce protectiveness that humans have. Exactly. Una nodded. They learned to be careful with resources because resources were limited. They learned to make treaties because conflict was expensive. But they never learned to sacrifice. They never learned to run toward danger because someone else was running away from it. That lesson can only be taught by a world that is trying to kill you. The meal ended. Thelis walked with Una back toward the airlock where the lighthouse was docked. Along the way, they passed through corridors filled with Velanti. Each one stopped to look at the human captain. Many of them bowed. Some of them cried. The children had prepared a gift. They rushed forward in a group, surrounding Una and her crew. Each child held a piece of paper with a drawing on it. "We made these for you," Morel said. She held up her drawing proudly. It showed the humans fixing the reactor. In the picture, the humans were tall and colorful and smiling. They looked like heroes from a story. The other children showed their drawings too. Pictures of Somi helping the injured. Pictures of Dawn fixing machines. Pictures of Taiwu playing games. Pictures of Jiwan entering the Chamber of Light. Una took each drawing carefully, as if they were precious treasures. Her eyes were wet. "Thank you," she said quietly. "These are beautiful." Jiwan was there too. He was in a floating medical chair, still weak but alive. Against all odds, against everything the Volanti knew about radiation and medicine, he had survived. He would need many more weeks to fully recover, but he was going to live. Morel walked up to him and placed her hand on his arm. "Thank you for saving us," she said. Jiwan smiled. His voice was weak, but his words were clear. "Thank you for being worth saving." Captain Thelis stood before the assembled crowd. He had an announcement to make. "From this day forward," he declared, "every Volanti ship will respond to every distress signal. No exceptions. No treaties required. No calculation of costs. If someone needs help, we will help them. This is what the humans have taught us. This is what civilization should mean." The crowd cheered. Volanti embraced humans. For a moment, the differences between species did not matter. There was only gratitude and joy and hope. The humans boarded their ship. Captain Una stood at the airlock door and looked back at the Volanti one last time. "Take care of yourselves," she said, "and take care of each other." Then the door closed and the lighthouse departed. In the weeks and months that followed, the story spread across the galaxy. The Volanti told everyone they knew. Other species listened with confusion and wonder. Slowly, things began to change. A single merchant guild vessel responded to a distress call without calculating costs first. The captain was disciplined by his superiors, but he did not regret his choice. A young Carthian commander disobeyed orders to help a stranded freighter. She was demoted, but she became a hero to many of her people. An illuminated collective priest left his temple to provide aid to refugees from a war zone. His doctrine said he should not go, but his heart said he must. One by one, individuals across the galaxy began to question what they had always been taught. They began to ask new questions. What is civilization? What is compassion? What does it mean to help a stranger? The Volanti proposed a new galactic accord. They called it the Lighthouse Protocol. It was simple. Any vessel in distress would receive help. No questions. No payment. No treaties required. The only requirement was need. If you needed help, help would come. Many species rejected the proposal. They said it was impractical, naive, foolish, but many others accepted it, and more joined every year. Captain Park Yuna received news of the Lighthouse Protocol on a quiet evening aboard her ship. She was sitting in her quarters, looking at the drawings the Volanti children had given her. Norel's picture hung on the wall above her bed. She read the message from Captain Thelis. The Lighthouse Protocol, named after her ship. She looked at her crew. At Dahan, grumbling about some repair he was working on. At Selmi, reviewing medical supplies. At Taiwu, learning new languages from galactic broadcasts. At Jiwan, fully recovered now, laughing at a joke someone had told. She thought about what they had done. They had answered a call for help. That was all. They had done what humans always did when someone was in trouble. And somehow, that simple act had begun to change the galaxy. She typed a reply to Thelis. 2 words, simple and true. About time. Then she closed the message and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other ships were in trouble. Other species were suffering. Other children were scared and alone. And now, thanks to a small battered rescue ship and its crew of savage humans, help was on the way. The universe was vast and dangerous and full of darkness. But it was also full of light. And sometimes, all it took was one small light to show others the way. The lighthouse had done its job, and its light would shine forever.